Hi, I'm Madison, and I'm replying to John Perlite's debate post about the Iran nuclear deal. I would like to reply, Hi, John, and disagree with you a little bit that we should be pulling out of the deal and that we're not getting anything out of it. So to start, I would like to say you're right. Iran is a huge sponsor of state terrorism, like you said, Yemen, Syria, Hezbollah. They're undoubtedly bad actors. However, I think that that's all the more reason that we should be staying in this Iran nuclear deal and that we should be engaging in diplomacy as opposed to simply imposing more and more sanctions on them and hoping that we can cripple their economy. And the reason I think that is because Iran is made up of a bunch of different kinds of people. So you have to in my opinion, you have to separate the government from its citizens. And Iran has a large middle class, an educated middle class that believes in, that I think could be negotiated with, and simply slapping sanctions on them because their government supports terrorism when not all of this middle class supports their government's actions, I think is a bit too broad of a stroke. We want to, again, engage in diplomacy and be able to reach some of these people. And in fact, the current president in Iran is actually pretty moderate for past presidencies in Iran. He wished Jews a happy holiday recently, which is pretty, what's the word? It's a pretty big deal that he's reaching across the aisle to a different religion. But so again, I think we have to separate Iran from its citizens, Iran's government from its citizens, and I don't think that they can all suffer equally under crushing sanctions. Also, to your point, I think that the Iran deal did a really good job of putting strict monitoring on the sanctions. Like it was the Trump administration had to recertify the deal every 90 days, and if they felt like they weren't meeting the requirements based on the IAEA's standards, then we could have slapped more sanctions on them at any point. And so I think they were complying with the deal up until, of course, we decided not to recertify in 2016. But I think that deal was doing a good job of keeping them at bay, if you will. Again, of course, it's not going to be a end all, solve all, but having the deal in place and having that open communication and being able to come to the table and actually talk to each other, or having that deal to negotiate, I think was really important in being leaders in America like we're supposed to be, like the United States is supposed to be. And besides that, before the Iran nuclear deal, sanctions alone weren't working anyways. They were still sponsoring terrorism, but they were doing it on a path to nuclear weapons. So this was more so. The Iran nuclear deal, in my opinion, is more so we can have an open door to be able to see into their world, if you will, and have a foothold on their facilities and how they're actually producing, where they're producing. It was a chance for us to learn more. So maybe 10, 15 years down the road, we can renegotiate a better deal. So again, not the end-all be-all, but I think that the Iran nuclear deal was an important piece of figuring out how to deal with Iran. So Mike Pompeo said that he knows that we know that they're cheating, we just can't see it, which isn't quite true, because again, those IAEA officials were on the ground and they were certifying every 90 days that they were complying with our requirements. And quite frankly, I would also like to bring up that the alternative to the Iranian deal feels like, since sanctions weren't working, and if we don't believe that the deal is working, the other alternative that we've pointed ourselves in the direction of, at least, is war, right? So I think considering those citizens, those middle class people like me and you in Iran, I think considering them war would be a terrible third option. So I think this deal was important. Also, thinking of North Korea in today's climate and how we're dealing with North Korea and their weapons, why is Kim Jong-un gonna negotiate with us at all if we've made this agreement 3 years ago and we're already pulling out of it because our administration changed and so our ideals changed? Now America doesn't want to deal in diplomacy anymore with the change of an administration. We want to sanction again, I guess, or again, go to war. So the deal was not perfect at all, but I think the weapons were a sideshow, and the real issue is whether or not we're going to be violent with other countries. And I think that the deal has kept a war at bay where they were weeks away from getting nuclear weapons. Now they were years away from getting nuclear weapons, but without this deal, there's nothing to stop them. President Macron said, he asked of us when we pulled out of this deal, what's our plan B, what's our other option? And so, again, the JCPOA wasn't the end-all be-all, but it was the first step in years of tension towards sitting down together at a table to look forward to a chance of a more peaceful world sometime in the future. We can't just be thinking in immediate terms, but also in long term. We must be making good decisions. How can we boast any credibility with North Korea or our allies if we're just breaking our commitments? Again, thinking of those citizens and the middle class people, I think that the nuclear deal was our best chance, and I think that we should try and negotiate again if progress for the sake of progress, or if possible for the sake of progress. We're also imposing sanctions on directly onto their foreign minister, Javad Zarif, which I think is a bad corner to be in because we're just escalating a situation without any option for de-escalating. So, I think you're totally right. They're state sponsors of terrorism, which is something definitely to be frowned upon at the least. But having an open door, having the ability to peer inside these facilities, I think was an important cornerstone of this deal that's now going to have to be fixed. So I do hope we can renegotiate, and you made really good points. So thank you for your video.